All right, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Special Audit Committee meeting to order. We will have that meeting, and then directly following will be our Finance Committee meeting. So I will start with a land acknowledgement. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And I'd also like to welcome our member at large, Alex McDonald. Thank you for joining us this morning. So the first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. So I will ask for a motion to approve the agenda, moved by Councillor Oikel and seconded by Councillor Bell. Thank you. Next on the agenda. Oh, yes, all those in favor. Carried unanimously. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, and those are from September 23rd, 2025, and those were circulated. So if there are no changes, I will approve those carried. And I don't see any additions or changes, so I will approve the minutes. All right, next we have our Director of Finance is going to present on the MODL profile and financial condition indicators from the 2023-2024 municipal report.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, members of council. The province of Nova Scotia has released the 2023-2024 financial condition indicators, or they call them the FCI. Those results were released on December 17th, 2025. So as part of the financial reporting and auditing manual, you have to, as an audit committee, review these indicators as a group, as you're legislated to do that. So a copy of the 23-24 FCI report is enclosed. The report is separated into 4 chapters: the municipal economic profile and demographics, our assessment information, our financial revenues and expenses, and our financial condition model and indicators. So part of this FCI does look at all of the financial information that municipalities have to submit on an annual basis. So as noted on page 11 of the report, our municipality has submitted all required financial information before the required deadlines. So the financial condition indicators provide a risk-based approach to evaluating municipalities and are presented in a house format graph. This is on page 26 of your agenda. This visual focuses on key performance indicators, leading financial indicators, and potential internal and external factors that could have an impact on a municipality's financial results. The risk thresholds are colored. Yellow indicates medium risk, red indicates high risk, and green low risk. The enclosed report indicates that the overall financial condition risk assessment for our municipality is green, which means it is considered low risk for fiscal instability. If you look at the indicator highlights on pages 27 and 28 of your agenda, the municipality has green indicators for all categories. If we start at the bottom, which is the indicators related to municipal revenues, or the base, the municipality's general operating revenue is stable, the 3-year change in tax rate base is keeping up with inflation, and there is low reliance on a single business. The residential tax effort has increased slightly from 2.2% to 2.5%. However, the benchmark for this indicator is 4%, so well below the 4. Based on the structure indicators relating to operating and general expenses and management of those expenses, which is the structure, the middle, uncollected taxes are at 5.7%, well under the 10% benchmark. Operating reserves increase based on the 5-year financial strategy and careful capital planning while maintaining capital assets with a 73% useful life. All outstanding debt has been paid. The roof of the graph indicators show that the municipality has been able to meet its needs in a balanced manner. The municipality is not dependent on another level of government to meet service obligations and is setting aside sufficient funds to help mitigate any unforeseen risks. The municipality continues to have healthy combined reserves, which is important to help address unexpected events and provide flexibility to address future project needs. So that's my general overview of this report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Oikel.
More of a curiosity, I'm just trying to find it. It said that we added 600 and some people to our residents. Do we know how many of them actually moved in, or if it's divided between who's born and who moved in? Do we know? Just curious.
From my understanding, that 682 people is between census results, so the 2016 census versus the 2021 census. So they don't tell you where the people came from, but there are 682 more people based on the census results that they got.
I was just curious to see how many of them moved here and how many were born. That's all. Thanks.
Councillor Smith, and then Mayor McLean-Weil.
I wonder if you could comment on page 22, the general operating expenses comparison to the provincial average. Our general government services is quite a bit higher than the provincial average. Ours is at 27.45%, and general government services for the provincial average is 17.3%. Can you just tell me what is general government services, and why is our percentage about 10% higher than average?
Through to the chair, and maybe this Deputy CEO can help me as well, but some of the things in your general government services are your legislative and administration, so your council and your administrative services, but all of your grants are there as well. So the municipality does have over 3 million in grants, and I know it's a little bit higher than it was in previous years, but I think our grants are much higher than other municipalities. So without me going back and trying to see it against the provincial average, I think one of the things that does make that number higher is our grants.
Yeah, just to add on a little bit, the province does their best to standardize expenditures so that you can compare across categories, but different municipalities will allocate things differently. So communications is often something that will appear in multiple different places depending on the municipality. So I believe our general government services does include communications, but other folks, other municipalities might have that actually in recreation and cultural services. We also have some of our protective services costs are actually included because we administer it out of the administration department, so some of those costs end up there. And I think but grants would be a significant one that would drive it because our municipality is definitely leading the pack in terms of supporting community organizations through grants.
Yeah, and just to follow up, I was wondering too why our protective services was lower than the provincial average, so that kind of explains that some of it is probably coming out in general government services.
That's a possibility. Another factor, though, would be generally town police forces are more expensive than RCMP. Similar to road costs, where you have direct control over them, you can invest where your residents want. Versus so on the policing side, town policing services are usually higher. There's a higher on-street presence. They need more officers per capita in order to provide that service. And so generally, municipalities with RCMP services will have lower protective services costs than municipalities with town police forces.
Mayor McLean-Weil.
I know I probably said this last year when we did this, but it does relate to kind of the usefulness of this document. And given that the years we're logging way behind in terms of how we use it. So how do we get that changed?
Through to the chair, if this is released by the province, right? So the municipal affairs. I feel like as a council, if you want to see these indicators quicker, perhaps you might do a letter to the province asking for it to be, given to you a little sooner. For the municipalities, like, we report by September 30th for our year end. We know that because we talk about that a lot. So if December of 2025, if we reported our 2025 year in September, you would think in 3 months they could have something like this put together if they've already got all their templates done. But I don't know how the internal workings of the department work, but that would be my comment. If council wished to see them a little sooner, then I think it would be a letter. Yeah.
Yep. One of the primary delays is municipalities meeting that reporting deadline. So the province historically has delayed release if they don't feel like they have enough submissions from municipalities, and not all municipalities are run by a director of finance like Elena, who takes those deadlines very seriously. The other delay is the process that they use internally for review, which generally takes a long time and is not necessary. If that's a goal of yours to have those indicators published sooner. Generally speaking, your position is absolutely correct. The usefulness of the indicators lagging several years behind makes it difficult to use them what they're intended for. Our council can take some comfort in the fact that we do have a really robust finance department that pays attention to risk factors and does long-range financial planning. So these indicators are actually, they're not actually intended for a council like yours. The primary purpose is that these are available to residents. So if residents have questions about the financial health of their municipality, they can go to these indicators and they provide some level of comparison, not to provide a sort of pass-fail mark, but to indicate where you might want to ask questions if there's areas of concern, so that you can get more robust information directly from your municipality. Because as Councillor Smith's question has illustrated, there's a lot of differences that can appear, and there's oftentimes good reasons why a municipality might score differently than another one. But they're a public tool to help folks that aren't deeply embedded in municipal finances understand their municipality. Particularly if you have a smaller municipality, generally towns have more financial pressures. The indicators are there to help residents identify if there are financial concerns for the viability of that municipality. And again, that's not a scenario that really applies to us, but it would be useful generally to the general public to have these indicators produced faster.
If I might it's just really annoying. It's a waste of our time when we're legislated to present these and outdated information. That seems like a complete and utter waste of time.
Okay, I don't know if it's, were you interested in making a motion about a letter or?
Well, I could do that. I'm not a big although, maybe the letters will help. I don't know. I guess they won't know unless we convey our concerns. So I would suggest that we convey a letter to the Minister of Finance outlining, and Municipal Affairs. I'm not sure who has the most jurisdiction over this, but to convey our concerns about the timing of this and the need to have it presented in a more timely fashion.
Councillor Brooks?
Just through the chair, clarification to Alex. Alex, do they not release them all at the same time because they're waiting for the bulk of municipalities? So do they feel like if there was a first in, first out, it would somehow disadvantage other municipalities? I mean, if we're on top of stuff and we get it submitted, theoretically, if it didn't require everybody else, isn't maybe that's something we communicate in a letter that, if this is not disadvantaging other municipalities, if we're on top of stuff, give us the most actionable information in the most timely manner possible. Sounded more like a statement than a question, but I guess, I don't know if you can comment on that at all.
I haven't worked for that department for over a decade now, so I don't know what their thinking is. Elena can calculate most of these for you on the completion of her submission to the province. So we have the information if we need it, and you get better quality analysis as part of your quarterly financial reporting and your budgeting process. The province has a responsibility to hold municipalities to their requirement to complete these forms by the deadline, and they should be publishing the data in a timely manner after they receive it.
Point of order.
Councillor Bell?
Madam Chairman, we're having a discussion when a motion was put on the floor but not seconded. Just pointing that out.
Okay, thank you. So a motion was put on the floor by Mayor McLean-Weil. Can I get a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Brooks. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask for all those in favor to raise your hands. Motion is passed unanimously. Ms. Wenzel.
Further to some of the comments on the timeliness of the information, I do have our 2025 results based on my submission to the financial information return, so I could certainly circulate that as a draft to members of council and the audit committee. But the only issue with it is I have no provincial averages to run it against. It would just be our numbers. But if you're interested in that, our audit committee in September, I'll have the number from the financial information return, and I can circulate that as a draft if you'd like.
Mayor McLean-Weil.
The way that would be useful without the provincial data is the benchmarks that are set by the province to go with each of the indicators. Then we have that to compare against, at least for our own purposes, and that could be available to the public as well. So at least it in our planning for the next year, it's at least we have that.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, just another question about the report around assets on page 36. I was just wondering if there's like what goes into calculating this risk factor, and if this is something that we could look at. I would be interested in looking at in more detail, assets and infrastructure, useful life remaining, that kind of thing. And if we've already looked at it and I'm just forgetting that report, let me know.
Yes, through to the chair, to Councillor Smith. So that on page 36, it's taking your net book value of your capital assets, so that's your assets less your accumulated amortization, and it puts it over the gross capital cost. So what it's measuring is whether or not you're investing in your infrastructure. If you weren't investing in your infrastructure, that percentage would be lower. So as long as you have more than what they're saying, it's greater than 50%, which is the benchmark. As long as you're above that, it means that you are investing adequately in your infrastructure as a municipality, and you're not letting things get too derelict, I guess is the right word.
Okay, so and where it says it does not necessarily indicate the condition of those assets. So there's no report that says we've got this many years left on all of these assets. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Oikel.
But do we have an asset management program of our assets? Is that something that would be useful to have? I would think so. Like, I know my own personal things at home, I kind of figure out how long they're going to last me before I have to save money to replace them.
Yes, Go ahead, Elaine.
I can defer to you, to Alex, if you want, but I think one of the things is our engineering department, they are always looking at the assets that they have. We don't have a formal, program where they're saying, oh, this wastewater treatment plant has this percentage of its life left, or those kinds of things. But they're keeping an eye on it. That's why in your 5-year plan, you see upgrades to your wastewater treatment assets. It's like our vehicles. We have a vehicle replacement program, so every 5 years, we're replacing those vehicles. So we are managing our assets. They're just not, there's no formal report to give you. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it, but we're not doing it formally, but we certainly are doing it informally.
So far, so good.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Wenzel before we close this special meeting? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so could someone put a motion forward to adjourn the Special Audit Committee meeting? Moved by Councillor Hubley, seconded by Councillor Bell. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. This meeting is adjourned.